And this gives you a little bit of direction on when we talked about the goal setter. You know, that's the influencer, initiator, strategist. Tend to be more take charge. Can be good because they can handle sort of rejection much better. They sort of resilient in that manner. Inside sales, when he was talking about the person that sold software, when he was talking about that, probably over here a little bit harder.
She was a community builder. She was,
yeah.
So, but she didn't do too well at the outside sales role.
When she flipped over to the outside sales, probably had confidence that she closed all these deals that, you know, I could do this. You got to know that. It's important. Really about relationships. And then over here, tech support, sales support, the patience, which probably those of us over here would have a hard time doing a role like that. And then over here, on the reflective thinkers, really more of sort of research, administration, planning. Gives you some idea of how that quadrant works. Does that make sense? With the case study that we'll talk through, we actually have 4 positions: outside sales, inside, technical, and administration. And when we go through these, just for the interest of time, we'll move through them. And if we need to spend a little bit more time on others, we will. But think about, you know, and we questions on behavioral interviewing. So I want you to just think about, if you're actually hiring somebody, the approach that you would use. In the sales role, and this is like what a benchmark, I think this is similar to what you guys use at PG Wireless. When you hire people, you can see here the factors, all 16 of them. And then you see the talents and activity. And then the scoring, now that you're familiar with the one-page factor report, things that you would look for in an outside salesperson, you'd want them to be more take charge, above 55. If they're under 54, you know, that may be, not that 54 is the mark, but let's say under 50, you know, that may not be the person that's going to be as outgoing and sort of taking charge, sort of leading the individual through that. In inside sales, maybe less than 50 because it's a relationship sort of sale in customer care.
Basically, the 3 that are green there, for let's say for outside sales, would be almost regardless of what company it is, what the product is, would be the 3 non-negotiable factor scores that the person needs to have to handle that role. The others might be a little more variable depending on the environment of the business, what's being sold, etc., etc. But those 3 highlighted there for outside sales are pretty much non-negotiable.
Does that make sense for everybody? So the 55, greater than 55 for take charge, under 45 for fast-paced, and I'm pioneering over 55 for outside sales. The 3 non-negotiables for inside sales would be greater than 55 on outgoing, so it's relational. Patience, just above 55, not too fast-paced. And then pioneering, just above 50. In customer service, cooperative, under 50. You don't want them to be too take charge. And then planned, you want them to be just above 50. And then here, cautious, just under 50 versus risk-taking. Does that make sense on how that benchmark works? Does? Okay. Depending on the business, as we've talked about, you know, an outside sales role on the hunter, you know, rainmaker, you want them to have these sort of characteristics: quick decision making, influencing, setting goals, objections, that they can handle it, following through, action oriented, being able to network, closing capabilities, just negotiating for the company, bold action, a little bit of self-reliance there.
And if any of you are ever helping a company build a job description, you could use some of these phrases because they're tied to, they're basically the traits.
This is an example of Dave. He's an influencer. You can see here, and this is hard to read here, but you can see, you know, take charge, fairly outgoing, fast-paced, spontaneous, pretty high on the pioneering and risk-taking, and a little bit more on the experience-based anchored side. It's a pretty heavy-duty profile.
So does everybody see why this person would be good for outside sales?
I would say if it's a real creative type sale, like, you know, if there's some sales that are sort of consultative sales, that would probably be a little bit more difficult for Dave. If it's not a little bit more of a cookie cutter, you know, that it's a little bit more of a predictable, because he's going to work from that experience. But if he has to sort of design and architect the sale, that probably would be a little more difficult for somebody like Dave.
This guy would be outstanding for a product-based sale. Take charge, he's reasonably outgoing, he's fast-paced, handle the rejection, it's pioneering, could go into a new market. He's gonna hit it hard, this guy.
He doesn't have to come up with unique solutions in there.
That's why the product sales, he knows it, he can sell it, he can drive to it.
He'd get frustrated if there were too many changes to the product and having to redesign things all the time. He just wants to go out there with the order sheet and sign me up now. And get people signed up.
Any questions on Dave? Does that make sense that he would fit a role like outside sales? Okay. This is his hiring report. Is just an extract of it, but it shows his talents, desired task based on those talents, 1 through 10. His desired team roles, number 1 is outside sales. His work environment, he's competitive. He likes new experiences, risk-taking, challenges, flexible. His rewards, sort of personal growth, you know, career progression, definitely sense of achievement. It's sort of meeting his goals. This is a very good report. A lot of people like to use it. I think you guys use it, don't you, Michelle? I remember, at least when Sasha went through that, she really liked it. It's easy to read. It's a great report. I know that's what you guys use at PG Wireless. For an outside salesperson, some things to watch in the interview, you know, substance over charm, because, you know, like Dave is going to be an influencer. He's going to really be gregarious, more than likely, outgoing. You know, their strategic approach. They don't take no for an answer. Persistence. Builds rapport, track. There's closings. You know, having an attitude, positive, and then passion for the role. So those are things you can really get in the behavioral interview. For an inside sales person, here's some key things to think about. You want them because it is, again, inside sales is by definition sort of a relationship type sale. Being friendly, maintaining those relationships, supportive, patient, follows through. Reliability is very important. Collaborative working, because we did say that that's not being so take charge for somebody. Comfortable meeting new people and communicating. Being comfortable to call people they know. Those relationships. Being that farmer. So Lane is a community builder. So we know community builders like to sort of influence their community. They sort of have a very passion for people. See that cooperative, outgoing, fairly patient, spontaneous, trusting. Not too much of a risk taker, but enough probably to be comfortable and a little anchored. Any thoughts on him, on Lane, for that role, for an inside sales? Here's his hiring report. Shows inside sales. These are the tasks that he would be most likely to be performed consistently. His work environment, loyalty, stability, doesn't like conflict. Wants a little more of a harmonious environment. And then helping others, help society, public contact. Money?
These desired ones that you're identifying are from your software, not from his input.
It's coming from the 46 questions that he's completed, sort of his natural talents. It's coming from that. It's very consistent to the workplace operations report, some of the things, but this really identifies sort of talents. Very easy to read, easy to use. Again, for the inside sales, good listener, ability to handle those objections. Those are things you'd want to probe in that behavioral interview. And then we have operational roles. Again, in the interest of time, because I know we're really getting down to 15 minutes, okay? On operational roles, because they do require a certain amount of planning and technical expertise. So the 3 non-negotiables for an operations manager is take charge over 55, patient a little over 40, and then on the cautiousness, under 55. For a trainer, just see those. Take charge, a little over 45. Outgoing, just a little over 45, and then patient over 50. So we'll just run through these pretty quickly in the interest of time. But I do want to make sure that you sort of understand when we build these benchmarks, these are tried and true. These benchmarks directionally, or you're going to really find the right behavioral fit. As Tyler spoke, that they use theirs. Nobody comes into their company without going through this process. On a technical support role, you really want them to be able to execute on projects, be somewhat collaborative, good team player, listening, being friendly, following procedures is probably very important. And we have Alice Price. She's a relationship builder. Probably hard to read these scores. But, fairly cooperative, planned, a little reserved, not too much, trusting, content, cautious, and a little creative there, 59. You can see here, desired team roles, operations manager, coach, community builder. The things that she would like to do, again, a relationship builder, we haven't talked a lot about today, but that the difference between the community builder, who's all about the community and building communities, the relationship builder tends to be one-on-one, comfortable, sort of building relationships. Delegating, listening, managing time. Very much about stability in that work environment. Rewards, really gets a lot out of helping others. That's sort of that relationship piece. And then the tips for on a support position, really you want them to be somebody that really can be, sort of represent the company, being able to communicate, really enjoys working in a team, likes to implement, build relationships. Very important. And then administrative type roles, because we always have to have those, really looking for people that help sort of being detail oriented is going to be very important. Probably analyzing data, following procedures, very important. In administration. You wouldn't want somebody to be too spontaneous, sort of in this type of a role. It can really create some problems. Reflective thinker, Tom Jordan here. Look at that planning score. Pretty high, cooperative, little outgoing, patient, right in the middle of skeptical and trusting, a little pioneering, fairly cautious, but pretty anchored, meaning experience-based. So when we look at Tom's hiring report, he is executing projects, managing time. He'd probably make a great sort of quality control compliance. He's going to be very detailed. It's predictable type work. Likes routine, reliability. Work tranquility. So you can see here that you can really use these matching people to the roles. It's going to be really important. Does that make sense on how we've done that? We've looked at sort of around the wheel different roles, and we haven't talked a lot about the relationship builders or the reflective thinkers, but you can really see the difference between them. The relationship builders are going to be a little bit, the reflective thinkers are going to be a little more informational focused, sort of process. Relationship builders are people building relationships, but they make great sort of individuals in the in back office or in planning projects. And obviously for the administration position, behavioral interviewing, making sure that they're detailed, that they have the ability to work alone, they don't always need to be disrupted, ability to plan, following procedures, it's going to be very important.